Hello, everybody. As you're coming in, I wanted to say welcome and please note that we have interpretation available. This meeting is in 4 languages. We have English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French today. Tenemos una sesión de 4 idiomas. Tenemos interpretación entre inglés, español, francés, y portugués. And so I want to invite everybody to please choose your preferred language. Unless you happen to speak all of those languages, please do choose English. If you want to listen and participate in English, go to the globe icon at the bottom of your screen, click on that globe and select English. If you don't see the globe, go to the 3 little dots where it says more and select interpretation. And choose English and don't mute the original audio, otherwise you won't hear everything that is said. Entonces, las personas que desean escuchar y participar plenamente en español, por favor, busquen el icono del globito que aparece en el menú de abajo, en la parte inferior de su pantalla de Zoom. Ahí van a ver la opción de escoger español bajo ese icono del globito y no hay que silenciar el audio original. A interpretação é disponível também o português. Para ouvir a interpretação para português em computador, clique no ícone do globo e escolha português. Se você entrou em um dispositivo móvel, procure o menu na parte inferior da tela do Zoom, deslize o menu para a esquerda e clique nos 3 pontos, depois em interpretação de idiomas, depois em português, e concluido. Aussi, on a l'interprétation en français. Así que, let me just look for my French message, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. L'interprétation est disponible. Pour écouter l'interprétation en français sur un ordinateur, veuillez cliquer sur l'icône représentant un globe et sélectionner français. Si vous êtes connecté depuis un appareil mobile, veuillez rechercher le menu en bas de votre écran Zoom, faire glisser le menu vers la gauche et cliquer sur les 3 points, puis sur Interprétation français et terminer. Si vous rencontrez des problèmes avec l'interprétation, veuillez nous informer dans le chat. So everybody, please choose your preferred language. We have interpretation in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to that globe icon or to the 3 dots and select your preferred language, please. Tenemos interpretación disponible en inglés, francés, portugués y español. Por favor, busquen el icono del globito para escoger el idioma de preferencia. O si no ven el globito, por favor, busquen esos 3 puntitos donde dice más. Busquen la opción de seleccionar interpretación y seleccionar español si desean escuchar y participar en español. Y no hay que silenciar el audio original. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. This is the launching webinar of Forest Cover 61, Exploited Lands, Exploited Lives, Struggles for Forests, Life, and Gender Justice in the Global South. My name is Valentina Figuera Martinez, and I'm going to request my colleague Andy to start recording this webinar and also going to the second slide if that is possible. Thank you. Thank you for joining again. It's good to see so many colleagues and friends, and also our member groups from different parts of the Global South, and also Europe and North America. We are very grateful to have you all here. And we're gonna start, as always, in these spaces with some housekeeping rules. It's always good to rename yourself in Zoom so that we can know who you are and where are you joining from, and also the name of your organization. So if you could do that as you see in the example, that would be great. Also, this meeting will be recorded, or is being recorded, right, Andy?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it being recorded already?
moment.
It's just for pedagogic purposes, because we often received requests from participants to revisit the recordings. So we're gonna record that. But in case you don't want to show your face, it's okay. You can turn off your camera, and that's completely fine.
Yeah, it's getting it's
Okay, maybe I could just continue.
sorry about that. Yeah.
No, it's okay. The most important thing is to actually record the speakers, not not the previous blah blah blah, which is important. But yeah, the most crucial thing is the speakers. Well, we developed this publication with a lot of commitment, not only to our members, but also to the work on forest protection, forest restoration, and community rights that the Global Forest Coalition always do. And we developed some gender tools, a gender methodology. It was developed by the Gender Justice and Forests campaign to support our members, authors in doing their research, considering also that there are several elements, including colonialism, gender injustices, that are also important to document in this process. So basically, it was a huge effort by a great team of colleagues. And also, I wanted to thank our members, the ones who are represented here in this webinar, but also their organizations, because without their field research and their support, we wouldn't be able to be here. So I just wanted to recognize their commitment to make this possible. Also, we will have presentations. We will hear directly from them. In the first place, we will hear from Anne Patterman from the Global Justice Ecology Project. She will share some crucial insights on big techs and how they are driving environmental and socioeconomic destructions under the guise of climate responsibility in Brazil. It's an important case study, very, very interesting, especially ahead of COP30. Then we will hear from Aleli González from the Centro de Estudios Genoi in Paraguay. And she is going to share a very interesting case on the deforestation and social environmental destructions, and how indigenous and rural women resist to those attacks in the Chaco in Paraguay, and particularly the case of Bahía Negra. Then we will listen from Bola Bataray from the National Forum for Advocacy Nepal, and he will hear about the Chepan people, his research in that important community in Nepal, and how extractive industries are driving deforestation in that area. And then we will have a Q&A session with Wen Bo. He is also an author of one of our articles. He is with the Environmental Paper Network China. Unfortunately, we couldn't present today Wen Bo's excellent research, but we hope we can have in an upcoming webinar also to continue promoting the case studies that we are presenting. Also Mario Vargas from the Centro de Investigación y Promoción del Campesinado in Bolivia. He has also an excellent case study that unfortunately, because of time constraints, we couldn't present here today, but we will do that, Mario. We hope to have you as well. So I encourage you all to read Wen Bo's and Mario's article as well, because they present critical elements on what is going on in Bolivia and Nepal. Andy, could you find out how to record? Is it okay? Can you start it now?
Yeah, it's already recording. Sorry.
Okay, great, excellent. I'm gonna pass the floor now to Anne so that she can start. But before that, before giving the floor to Anne, I just wanna let you know that in case you have any questions, in case you have any comments, you can actually write them in the chat. And Andy is gonna collect them all, and so that also Wenbo can address your questions, or also the speakers can also address them directly in the chat. Thank you. Go ahead, Anne.
Thanks so much. Let me share my screen here. Okay. New slideshow. All right, so this is these slides are from, sorry, it seems to be cutting off the top, but these slides were actually put together by Heather Lee. She wrote the article that I'm presenting today. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us because of a family emergency, so I am doing the presentation in her stead. The theme of this is how big tech is driving an ecological and social crisis in Brazil. I'm also going to talk a little about Chile because the two are very related. But in Brazil, the country of Brazil has legalized the commercial distribution for the first time ever of about 9 or 10 different genetically engineered eucalyptus trees. And they are doing this saying that it is a climate responsible thing to do, that it is going to help sequester carbon, that it is going to provide all of these benefits for production and so forth and so on. But what we're really seeing, of course, people on this call, I'm sure, are very aware of the impacts of these monoculture eucalyptus plantations. But they are very successfully selling these carbon offsets, the carbon offsets from these plantations to companies like Microsoft, which has already bought millions of dollars worth. Sorry, trying to get my slides to work here. Sorry, my slides aren't working correctly, of course. Let me do it this way. So Microsoft is screen. Microsoft is already bought $300 million, $3.5 million in carbon offsets from Brazil to offset their AI facilities, their data centers, which are using an enormous amount of electricity. And they and Apple and other companies are claiming that they can do this sustainably by using carbon offsets. And often these carbon offsets are in the form of monoculture tree plantations. I don't know why my computer is not letting me move. There we go. But this is what we're talking about. This is a monoculture tree plantation. This is actually in Chile. This is a eucalyptus plantation. You can see the car at the very little bottom there. And this is what the Microsoft and the countries of Brazil and Chile are saying is sustainable forestry, that these monocultures can sustainably offset climate change, which is, of course, not at all correct. And Brazil wants to expand these kinds of plantations throughout the country of Brazil. They are destroying native forest. The Cerrado forest, especially in Brazil, is being just totally decimated to expand these monoculture eucalyptus plantations. And the Cerrado is one of the most biodiverse, next to the Amazon, is one of the most biodiverse forests on the planet. But people in Brazil are resisting. This is Célio Leocadio. He's a Quilombola community leader. And this is a newly clear-cut and replanted eucalyptus plantation behind him there, right next to his territory. And he's holding a eucalyptus clone. So they plant these eucalyptus clones right after they deforest, and then they grow new plantations. And here Celio is explaining the destruction that these things cause, that these are not actually carbon neutral at all, but they deplete the water, they contaminate the water, and they cause the communities to lose their sources, their natural sources of food. In in Chile, this is in Chile, we talked about in the introduction here the gender and colonial impacts of industrial forestry plantations, and in this case, genetically engineered trees as well. These are Mapuche women who are speaking at a press conference outside of a prison in Temuco, Chile, where prisoners have been, people have been arrested and have been accused of crimes, invented crimes, and may be held for up to 2 years because of the crime of trying to recover their traditional ancestral lands. And this is something that is the struggle in Chile to recover the lands is very much led by Mapuche women. And as a result of that, they are being targeted for repression. So there are women in prison. These 3 boys are the children of a prisoner named Claudia Nahualan, and she is in prison. She has been in prison for over a year now and has not been allowed to see her boys because of her imprisonment, and she's part of the movement to recover territory, and that is why she can't see her boys. So the women lead the effort in Chile to recover the territory, which is part and parcel of recovering their spirituality, recovering their language, recovering their culture, their food sovereignty, their medicines, all of these things that they had traditionally that were stolen from them when the Pinochet dictatorship took over their forests and gave them to the timber plantations, to the timber companies for monoculture pine and eucalyptus plantations. And the result of these pine and eucalyptus plantations, in addition to all of these social impacts and injustices, has been massive mega fires in Chile. So this is an area that was burned in 2016. They called these mega fires. They were completely out of control wildfires in these highly explosive, explosively flammable plantations and widespread fires. In 2023, the fires were even worse, and they were the worst fires. Both of these fires were the worst fires in the history of Chile, and they both started in monoculture industrial timber plantations. But this does not dissuade the industry. In Chile and in Brazil, they are attempting to create genetically engineered trees that are called gene-edited trees. So they say that these gene-edited trees are different than genetically engineered trees, but they're not. They're just a different kind of genetically engineered tree. And they argue that they can change the lignin, which is what creates the wood, forms the wood in the tree, that they can actually create synthetic lignin to re-engineer into the tree to make the trees do whatever they want them to do, to make them turn them into chemicals, textiles, plastics, whatever they want. They say they can change these lignins. And the company Arauco in Chile and the company Suzano in Brazil are very rapidly pursuing these gene-edited trees, while they also try to convince the government of Brazil and the government of Chile and international institutions like the UN, like the IUCN, that gene-edited trees are not genetically engineered and should not be regulated. But this is literally a slide from one of their presentations. They think that they can improve nature. They can teach nature new things with their GM trees. This is what we're talking about. This is a plantation, a greenhouse full of genetically engineered eucalyptus clones in Bahia in Brazil that a few years later, was destroyed by some women from the MST as a part of a protest on International Women's Day. This is the global situation. So you can see these are where we have either field trials of GE trees or research on GE trees or potentially commercial releases of GE trees. And you can see that Brazil is very much a center, a hub for that. Also Chile, also Argentina, but all Latin America is really being looked at as a place where they want to do the experimentation and the commercialization of GE trees very rapidly because they feel that that's a great place for regulation and for, cheap labor, to be blunt about it, and as a source for pulp and paper and other resources for the global north. There are people obviously protesting all over the world about the rights-based violations of genetically modified trees and these gene-edited trees and their use as carbon offsets. This is actually a protest, an indigenous people's protest against carbon offsets and REDD back in Bali in 2007. And this is something people, the indigenous movement, indigenous people, communities have been talking about for long time about the injustice of carbon offsets. And instead of listening to that, the corporations are just plowing ahead. The governments are plowing ahead. The UN is plowing ahead with moving forward with more carbon offset plantations, and now talking about including fast-growing, non-rotting, genetically engineered trees in these forests. But there are solutions, of course, and the solutions are people being led by frontline communities, people's own solutions, agroecology and food sovereignty that regenerates the soils, community-based forest protection, and women-led water and seed sovereignty movements. Climate justice and forest justice, all of these things must center rights, of course, not markets, and diversity, not monocultures. So the conclusion is that this presentation and this article are part of the move toward COP30, which is happening in Belém, Brazil. And this is where people are putting a lot of energy to try to convince the government of Brazil to cancel the commercial applications of Suzano's 9 genetically engineered tree approvals. They are also trying to get Brazil to not approve any of Suzano's gene-edited trees that Suzano is pushing forward, because real climate stability and climate responsibility does not come from corporate labs, of course, but from the soil, the water, and the wisdom, especially of the indigenous and indigenous peoples and local communities who know how to care for these forests. So just quickly, here's the books of some of the people featured in this slideshow. Celio Leocadio, his book Honoring Ancestry, which can be ordered on that QR code. And the other book is Portraits of Struggle. Oren Langell, who works with me, I used almost all of his photographs in this slideshow. He has a book called Portraits of Struggle, Retratos de Lucha, that has these photographs and many others in it. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I hope I didn't go over time, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing. Anne is the Executive Director of Global Justice Ecology Project, a GFC member group. And she is also the coordinator of the international campaign to stop GE trees. Well, she has been on the road for over 20 years, right? And so really thankful for sharing with us today. What is really clear about your presentation is the actors responsible for this destruction, and interesting that dialogues that you have with the case in Chile, which is now currently facing very important human rights threats and violations, particularly in the Mapuche community. And we see that the corporations have an important role into these, colonial extraction models, no? And also the states, because the access to justice seems not to be really there, no? And also the big NGOs have sort of responsibility into perpetuating this destruction in the forest and territories of our communities. And despite that, we continue, seeing the resistance, the struggles, particularly of women with the different agroecology practices, with seed sovereignty and all the solutions that are already there and yet are not being promoted. Bueno, gracias, Anne. Ahora vamos a movernos rápidamente con nuestra próxima panelista. Muchas gracias a nuestras compañeras queridas Anne y Heather, que hoy no pudo estar aquí, pero que, bueno, nos pudieron dar una pequeña mirada sobre lo que es este artículo. Acabo de poner ahí en el chat el link a la publicación que estamos lanzando hoy, así que las invito a que lean el artículo de Heather y así como, bueno, todos los que están allí compilados. Ahora le quiero pasar la palabra a Lely. Bueno, fue bastante agradable trabajar con ella. Genioy es un grupo muy cercano a nosotros y desde Paraguay continuamos, bueno, resistiendo y en solidaridad con esa lucha también por monocultivos de eucalipto, pero otras amenazas. Lely es investigadora en el Centro de Estudios Genioy en Paraguay. Ella tiene una maestría en ciencias sociales por el programa de Flaxo Paraguay y actualmente es doctoranda en economía en la Universidad Nacional de General Sarmiento en Buenos Aires y es también formada en economía por la Universidad de Pinar del Río en Cuba. Y entre sus líneas de investigación se encuentran los estudios agrarios críticos, ya lo van a ver en el artículo que ella escribió, desde un enfoque de la economía política y todas esas dinámicas de acumulación capitalistas en nuestras economías dependientes en América Latina. Es un excelente artículo también y bueno, le voy a pasar la palabra a Lely para que pueda compartir con nosotros y nosotras.
Bueno, buenos días. Muchas gracias, Valentina, por la presentación. Es un gusto estar acá en representación también de mis compañeros del equipo de Genio y con quienes estuvimos trabajando en el artículo que les voy a presentar ahora. Voy a compartir mi pantalla también para que puedan ver la presentación que preparé. Me avisan si ahí la pueden ver.
Sí, sí se ve.
¿Sí?
Si tal
Ok,
vez la
perfecto.
puedas agrandar o poner en pantalla completa.
La pongo acá en pantalla completa. Ahí está bien.
Gracias. Sí, perfecto. Gracias. Adelante.
Genial. Bueno, comentarles un poquito antes de continuar que este artículo nace de una investigación que estuvimos haciendo el año pasado, indagando sobre los impactos y cómo el agronegocio se va reconfigurando en los territorios en Paraguay. Ya no es solamente la producción de soja a gran escala ni la ganadería a gran escala, sino que también con la nueva infraestructura y la construcción de la vía oceánica que pretende unir, digamos, los trayectos desde el Océano Pacífico al Atlántico, van cambiando los territorios, van afectando a la población local, particularmente a comunidades indígenas. Y bueno, eso fue un poquitito lo que estuvimos viendo el año pasado con el equipo de Genioy en la región del Chaco, es la región occidental, la región más grande de Paraguay, representa el 60% del territorio. Y es ahí en donde se ubican cerca del 50%, 47% para ser exactas, del hato ganadero. Voy a pasar la presentación. Nosotros habíamos titulado con mis compañeros esta presentación como, bueno, el Chaco como un remanente de vida, en el sentido de que es una de las regiones que alberga la mayor biodiversidad acá en América del Sur después de la Amazonía. Estamos hablando de un distrito que se ubica en la frontera con Brasil y Bolivia, del lado del Pantanal. Entonces es una importante reserva todavía de fauna, de flora y sobre todo que todavía existen ahí comunidades indígenas no contactadas en aislamiento voluntario y que bueno, ahora están viéndose afectadas por el avance no solo de la frontera agroexportadora, sino también del capital inmobiliario especulativo que va convirtiendo el territorio en un hub logístico empresarial para el agronegocio. Acá pueden ver un poquitito algunas imágenes de la fauna Este es uno de los brazos del río, del Pantanal. Una de las particularidades es que en esta región, que es de mayoría de población indígena, la población se dedicaba a la agricultura, no a la agricultura, a la caza y a la recolección. Hoy, en la actualidad, eso ya no es posible. El modelo agroexportador ha ido avanzando, han ido cercando los bosques, talando los bosques también, la deforestación es muy alta en el Chaco paraguayo. Y eso ha dejado también a las comunidades indígenas sin el sustento diario, ¿no? Estamos hablando de comunidades que viven gracias a la recolección, a la caza, a la pesca, y que hoy ya no lo pueden hacer. Tienen que dedicarse a otras actividades, como es la elaboración de artesanías para poderlas vender. Y en el caso de la población joven, que eso es lo más impactante, emigran para emplearse en el sector textil en Brasil, a San Paulo. Y en una de las entrevistas nos decía la lideresa indígena, que ellos saben que sus hijos salen, pero que no saben si van a volver y que a veces cuando vuelven, vuelven en un cajón, porque las condiciones de explotación, tanto en las fincas en Brasil como en las fincas ganaderas en Paraguay, y también el trabajo en las fábricas textiles en Brasil es muy duro, se realiza casi en condiciones de esclavitud y bueno, eso ha derivado en que muchos de los jóvenes que han ido a trabajar ya no hayan vuelto a sus comunidades. Acá ustedes en estas imágenes van a poder ver, acá se utiliza un eufemismo que es el cambio de uso del suelo para hablar de cómo van modificando los bosques, van deforestando para la pastura, para los monocultivos de eucaliptos. Hay ahora un proyecto muy grande de loteamiento para la construcción de edificios en el medio del Chaco. Y todavía en Paraguay, a diferencia de otros países que también producen ganado, acá en Paraguay la cría de ganado se hace de forma extensiva. Entonces, por una vaca se requiere 1 kilómetro cuadrado para que esa productividad no caiga y pueda ser rentable la producción ganadera en el país. Acá quiero colocar también, quiero hacer énfasis en que solamente entre la producción de soja y la ganadería representan el 65% de los ingresos que obtiene el país por exportaciones. O sea, son dos rubros realmente importantes en la actividad económica en el país y que, bueno, ese nivel de importancia hace que tengan mucho peso en el diseño de las políticas públicas, ¿no? Acá estas son las imágenes que pudimos captar con el dron sobre ya el loteamiento. Esto era un bosque. eh, Ahora fue todo loteado para construir eh, edificios, viviendas para el núcleo logístico que va a estar conectado a la ruta bioceánica. Esto es unos kilómetros antes de llegar a la frontera con Bolivia. Y en cuanto a las condiciones laborales también, hace rato en la presentación de la compañera que me antecedió, hablaban de que la fuerza de trabajo en América Latina es muy baja, el valor de la fuerza de trabajo es muy baja. Y acá nosotros pudimos captar cómo los capataces de las fincas ganaderas recogen a las poblaciones indígenas para llevarlas a trabajar a las fincas básicamente como cualquier otro objeto de trabajo, ¿no? Estamos hablando de poblaciones que no reciben tampoco un salario, no se encuentran en condiciones legales de empleabilidad. Entonces, bueno, es una condición, nosotros la registramos como semifeudal, las que existen todavía en el Chaco paraguayo y en general en las fincas ya los escasos bosques que quedan en el país. Paraguay tiene una de las tasas de deforestación más altas en la región. Y bueno, acá ustedes pueden ver en imágenes solamente un poco de lo que eso fue, ¿no? De lo que pudimos registrar. Y para ir cerrando, quiero cerrar con una frase de una de las lideresas indígenas a quienes pudimos entrevistar. que nos decía que en esa zona, en su comunidad, son todos sobrevivientes, porque sobreviven no solamente a la ofensiva del modelo agroexportador, de los grandes terratenientes, que sin ningún tipo de legalidad, pero amparados en la institucionalidad del Estado paraguayo, avanzan sobre sus territorios, sobre sus comunidades y nos decían, nosotros somos sobrevivientes, nuestros hijos son sobrevivientes, y además sobrevivimos a un Estado que criminaliza la lucha por la tierra, que criminaliza los derechos de las comunidades indígenas y que en definitiva, al no existir ni recursos ni una política pública destinada a garantizar los derechos de las comunidades indígenas, estamos hablando de un Estado que implícitamente en la práctica tiene una política genocida hacia las poblaciones indígenas del país, ¿no? Entonces, eso es un poquito lo que queríamos compartir con ustedes. Por un lado, la destrucción ambiental, la degradación ambiental de la que es objeto el Chaco paraguayo, que es una de las zonas más ricas todavía en biodiversidad, y por otro lado, ese desmantelamiento del tejido social comunitario en las comunidades rurales, campesinas e indígenas, que hoy por hoy están abandonadas a su suerte por parte del Estado. Gracias por la atención y yo lo dejo por acá, Valentina.
Gracias, Aleli, por compartir con nosotros tu investigación, tu caso de estudio, muy interesante. También ver cómo de alguna manera los mismos modelos de desarrollo coloniales desde hace 500 años se reinventan, ¿no? Para continuar acumulando riqueza, poder. Y bueno, ese tema de la ruta bioceánica, creo que, bueno, es bien interesante para pensar el tema del acceso a la tierra, ¿no? Y cómo en vez de priorizarse políticas públicas para favorecer el acceso a la tierra, para proteger a las comunidades indígenas en aislamiento voluntario, para desarrollar políticas con perspectiva de género y reducir desigualdades socioeconómicas. Por el contrario, se opta desde el Estado financiar proyectos que simplemente van a movilizar commodities, ¿no? Para continuar el mismo ciclo de enriquecimiento y continuar perpetrando desigualdades de género. Cuando yo te escucho decir que 22 millones de hectáreas están en manos del agronegocio y al mismo tiempo percibir la falta de políticas públicas que mencionas y recomiendas en tu artículo, realmente no hace coincidencia con lo que se escucha en las negociaciones internacionales. Algunos miembros de la coalición estamos hoy y hemos estado las últimas 2 semanas en Panamá para las reuniones de los órganos subsidiarios del artículo 8J y del órgano técnico y tecnológico del Convenio de Diversidad Biológica, y lo que observamos en las negociaciones y en los corredores, en los pasillos, es completamente una resistencia a entregar poder y autonomía a las comunidades y pueblos indígenas. Justamente ayer se hablaba de una resistencia de entregar poder, digamos. Los estados no son muy favorables a entregar poder a las llamadas ICAs, ¿no? O tierras indígenas y comunitariamente conservadas. Es realmente muy, muy compleja la situación desde el estado del poder. Pero igualmente, bueno, agradecemos que hayas documentado también la resistencia de esas mujeres y que hayas no solo planteado un problema, sino recomendado algunas soluciones puntuales para resolverlo. We're going to move now with our colleague Bola Bataray from the National Forum for Advocacy, Nepal. He is the executive director of NAFAM, a GFC member group in Nepal. He's also a social and environmental activist with a long career organizing and mobilizing communities and civil society organization for environmental and human rights causes. And he will present today also a very interesting case study published and launched today entitled The Chepang People Confront Nepal's Extractive Industries. Go ahead, Bola, and thank you for being here again.
Visible?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can see your
okay.
screen. Excellent.
This story is from the Chepang indigenous people who have been confronting with the extractive industries in Nepal. So this article is written by myself and other three colleagues. Maybe they are not here. I had informed them to be here, but I'm not sure. So first of all, I would like to thank Global Forest Coalition and the colleagues, and especially the Chepang communities who were who have been supported this process. So basically, the Chepang who were in difficult situation to explain or to share about their cases, but as a close friend of them, I'm actually be able to get all the information from them. So in this presentation, I will cover this brief background of the Chepang communities and problem statement. I'll highlight about it and methodology part, and I will highlight major findings and discussion and some of the recommendation and conclusion. So when we talk about the background, Chepang, there are many different indigenous people in Nepal. Chepang are one of the indigenous groups who are residing, especially in the central region of Nepal. Especially they have been, residing in the very difficult geographical terrain. We call it Mahabharat range of the central Nepal. Till now, as per the CBS, Central Bureau of Statistics, the population is around 84,000 in total who are living, especially in the 4 districts, and some of them are just migrated other districts as well. So they are the semi-nomad community who have been relying on slash and burn agriculture activity, logging and hunting to sustain their livelihoods in the steep and forested hills for a long decades. So especially the location, as I mentioned, which is isolated, and due to this, isolation, they have very limited access to education, healthcare, and other infrastructure from the government and other development sectors. And due to this, the geography, education, other socioeconomic challenges, they are facing extreme poverty and with food insecurity and malnutrition, which are the main issues that Chepang communities have been facing. But in other hand, like they have very rich cultural heritage, they are managing their hill, their forest, their land, their the biodiversity through the deep ecological knowledge, especially the Chepang women who are the main custodian of this food system, bio cultural system. They are protecting it from the long time, but it is totally overlooked by the development efforts. In other hand, as we are talking about the extracting industries, there are many different companies, different industries, small, medium-sized industries. They are extracting limestone and other minerals from their ancestral lands. So this is the story of these extraction companies who are encroaching the land of Chepang communities. So also this article will inform the readers that how Chepang are facing the threats, from the mining extraction. Okay. For this, we have been using qualitative case study method for collecting all the information from the communities. We had conducted a key informants interview with Chepang community leaders, human rights activists, and also conducted a focus group discussion, especially in the districts where we have studied. So these, methods, and as I have talked, this green part, the majority of Chepang are residing these days in the first picture in the right hand side. So this is the methodology we have used to collect the information. So regarding to the findings part, there are a lot of findings we have collected from the field, basically especially from the human rights and environmental justice part. The human rights were violated due to this, the extreme extraction without proper consultation with people, without having free prior and informed consent, or even, they even don't know what will happen next day. In the first day they are residing in the home, but next day they have to leave their home immediately when the companies go and remove them without having any consultation. Due to this, extraction, lot of health and well-being problem are facing by the communities. During our discussion, Sepang household were saying that in this particular region, more than 1,200 Sepang households have already been displaced, with the entire village forced off ancestral land. So in the same line, Nepal's National Human Rights Commission identified that 42 mining industries are already operating in Sepang territories, 42. And in other side, we can also found that 86 the new companies who are national as well as the joint venture companies have get a license from the government agencies. This shows that the territories, the Sepang territories, will be converted into the industrial area, and that will directly impact the health and well-being of the Sepang communities. As during our study, we have observed that a lot of trucks were moving one place to another, and there were a lot of dust in the Sepang household, and they have been facing. In another hand, the girls, the students, children who were going to schools, even schools were displaced from the industries. That means they are not allowing to access to the education. In another hand, as I mentioned, the traditional knowledge, traditional role of women, including men who were living in their territories, is totally lost, because they are enforced to leave their territories, to leave their villages, and they are coming in the southern part of their land, where the culture is different, the society is totally different, and they are fighting for survival. So in another hand, as I mentioned, the decision-making process, they are not getting any chances to participate in any decision. So these are the challenges that Sepang communities have been facing. Likewise, as I mentioned, the Sepang are not communities as well as to secure land rights of them. This should also include ensuring women participation in all stages of the consultation and decision making, because as I mentioned, the Sepang women are the custodian of the resources, who are almost forgotten, who are left behind. So in addition, there's the systems, the government should recognize their unique knowledge and needs, so that it can implement targeted measures to restore livelihood, protect their health, support girls' education in the face of ongoing environmental and social challenges. And also, there is a need of investment to empower Sepang women and girls to protect their resources, because they are not have any opportunity to participate in any decision-making forum. So these are the recommendations from our study. In conclusion, the expanse of mining industries, often extracted without free prior informed consent, which was mandatory as per the international laws as well as our constitutions. It should be mandatory, but it has led to the degradation because they are not following this free, prior, and informed consent provision. So that the degradation of their ancestral lands, destruction of the homes and cultural sites, and also it created environmental pollution and losing the traditional livelihood dependent on agriculture and forest resources. Likewise, this disruption have highlighted their human rights, rights to land, rights to culture, rights to health, economic and meaningful participation in decision-making process. That means that the process is not very much transparent. The process is not very, informative to these, disadvantaged communities like Japan. The lack of government accountability, like I mentioned, there is no very much strong accountability system at all. And also corporate responsibility, which should further depends their exclusion and highlighting the urgent need of right-based and inclusive development practices in the Sepang territory. So these are the the highlights of the article. Maybe you can also go to the article, and if you will have any question or anything, then maybe you can ask or you can write email to us so that we can try our best to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Bola. Thank you for sharing those important recommendations as well after presenting the state of the Chepang and their ancestral lands in Nepal. I have to say that that was a quite interesting article to read also. We were very happy to work with you as well as with the rest of the authors. And yes, again, despite the different regional differences, we continue this seeing the extractivist model, right, being developed and being financed, right? We're talking about probably 7 trillion of perverse incentives that are already there, that are fueling this destructive cycle of nature, being just decimated and communities being violated. And instead of, investing resources and developing, public policies to address the root causes of destruction, we continue seeing this. Nevertheless, it's important to see how the Chepang women in particular have been resisting. And Bola rightly points out the defense or the wall of defense that they have created to confront the corporations and also to seek for better opportunities to continue doing their important forest protection work, but also to defend their rights. I'm gonna pass the word to our colleague. For the Q&A session, Wenbo, he's gonna be moderating. So maybe if you have any questions, Bola, go ahead. He will be happy to guide us in 10 minutes, and also, place some of the reflections presented here in dialogue with the interconnected struggles to protect forests of the Chinese and Indonesian women presented in Wenbo's article. Thank you, and I'll leave it with you, Wenbo.
Thank you, Valentina, and thank you for speakers, the presenter who made a wonderful presentation on the articles they wrote. I'm one of the authors, and I'm from Immigrant People Network China. China Immigrant People Network is also a member of Global Forest Coalition, and thank you for colleagues who have its article writing, etc. So this session, Q&A session, we're going to open the floor to the audience, and anybody have the questions, you can either put your question in the chat line, or you can raise your hands and open your mic, and if you have questions. where we're waiting for a few questions to come. And I just give a brief introduction about the article that I wrote. It's about women environmental leaders exchanges on conservation of forests between China and Indonesia. China is a consumer country, import huge amounts of forest logs and also forest products, and make them as a paper pulp. And so we are trying to raise awareness inside China and also promote engagements of Chinese NGOs to help with reduce consumption and also monitor the big paper pulp companies like ABP and April. And if people have interest, you can go to website of Global Forest Coalition and check the forest cover report. So do we have a question coming in?
Or comments, maybe any comments or questions from the process, from to the authors.
Right, and you can either put your question in, in different languages in chat line, and we have people who can translate them to the audience. Maybe I can start with one question.
Can you see Handain's hand, Mohamed?
Mohamed.
Well, Mohamed raised his hand. Can you see him?
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Okay.
Oui.
Go ahead.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Go ahead, Mohamed. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Valentina, pour cette invitation. Merci pour les panélistes. Donc, c'est vraiment un thème qui est très, très important. Je voudrais juste faire quelques remarques concernant les forêts au sein de notre temps maintenant avec les réunions de la CBD ici à Panama, surtout sur la SBI 8G. Donc, ce que j'ai remarqué, comme a dit Valentina, il y a deux blocs très importants, deux blocs qui se disputent les forêts. Il y a le bloc de Brexit. Allô, vous m'entendez?
Oui, oui.
Il y a le bloc de Brexit avec à la tête la Russie, l'Inde, l'Afrique du Sud et le Brésil. Donc, ce sont des pays qui se manifestent d'une façon réticente vis-à-vis des droits des peuples autochtones concernant les forêts, concernant la gestion des forêts. Donc, plus que les peuples autochtones demandent plus de droits, plus que ces pays se sont réticents vis-à-vis des droits, vis-à-vis de la gestion des autochtones concernant les forêts. Donc, ce que je pense pour l'avenir, il y aura plus de réticence concernant les deux éléments essentiels dans la biodiversité. Il s'agit de l'eau, il s'agit de les forêts. Donc, concernant les forêts, donc il y a des lobbying extraordinaires qui se constituent autour de l'avenir des forêts parce que c'est un business, c'est un grand marché, des milliards et des milliards de dollars. Donc, ces lobbying constituent des blocs, ne peuvent pas donner la gestion et les droits des peuples autochtones. Ça, c'est un grand problème et que cette situation demande oblige les peuples autochtones à se réorganiser, à être plus compétents, surtout les générations nouvelles des peuples autochtones qui viennent de temps en temps, qui viennent pour prendre la relève. Il faut qu'ils soient vraiment, il faut qu'ils maîtrisent vraiment les enjeux entre les enjeux de la forêt. Deuxième point, l'eau, le problème de l'eau. Vous savez que les guerres prochaines seront sur qui détiennent les sources de l'eau. Nous avons vu le problème entre l'Éthiopie et l'Égypte, sur le grand barrage de l'Éthiopie. Nous avons vu plusieurs conflits au niveau national entre les peuples autochtones et les projets du barrage partout dans le monde. Donc, ce sont les deux points qu'on doit, en tant que peuple autochtone, qu'on doit discuter, qu'on doit maîtriser de plus. Merci beaucoup, Valentina. Merci pour les panélistes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mahat, for your comments. I have a question to Annie from Global Justice Ecology Project. You covered the GE trees and the expansion of those big tech companies that try to dominate this area. What's the potential of their business in other continents? I know that they're big in Latin America, but do they have other plans to expand to other places?
I don't have a concrete answer for that, but I can guarantee, because they are seeking to offset the emissions from these massive data centers for AI all over, the world, that they are going to be needing to offset, to make them green centers. They are going to need to offset quite a large number of emissions. So I can only imagine that they will be very interested in expanding plantations in other countries, not expanding plantations, to use plantations being expanded by other companies as offsets for their data centers.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie. And so how many time are we over time already, or how many time do we have?
No, we're fine. If
No,
anyone
we're
else
not.
would like to. Oh no, we're not. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, we have like
Plenty of time.
probably a couple of minutes to wrap up. Yes.
Okay.
So if
So,
anyone else would like to make a final comment, that would be fine. Wenbo, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I'll probably just give the floor to you, Bettina. So maybe you can make a final remark. You have been coordinating to cover.
No, that's fine. Also, it's good to hear from you all, and what Mohammed was mentioning is quite important, because that opposition to, like in here in Panama, what we have been seeing, and I think that we have discussed, Mohammed and I, in the corridors, is this opposition of states and the views of indigenous peoples, and how they are really not willing to give power, through the different few possibilities that the CBD offers to do that. Of course, that this is a historic meeting. We all agree about that. It's a meeting to actually start building the basis of what would be the contributions and the recognition to the indigenous peoples and local communities' contribution to achieving the targets and goals of the convention. To my personal point of view, I think that the CBD is late on this recognition, because they have been there for millennia, right? Doing important conservation work. But of course, it is fundamental to recognize the relevance of having these spaces. But again, we see how forests are seen as commodities. They are not considered places or ancestral pillars of life, They are just commodities that will be financialized, with no corporate responsibility, no free, prior, and informed consent, and it's always the struggle for life versus the struggle of, you know, of capitalist accumulation. And it's important to point it out. But I'm gonna pass the floor to our colleague Mario Vargas, who also wrote an excellent article. Please read it, and he's gonna give the final reflections so that we can close the webinar today. Adelante, Mario. Gracias.
Gracias, Valentina. Un saludo a todos los que están participando de los diferentes países y continentes del mundo. Voy a hacer una síntesis puntualizando algunos elementos que se han presentado con las experiencias que hemos escuchado de Brasil, también la de Paraguay y de Nepal. Sin embargo, como dice Valentina, en este número 69 de la revista, tenemos casos de China e Indonesia, tenemos casos de Georgia y Bolivia, que en su conjunto nos plantean algo muy similar a lo que hemos escuchado con las tres exposiciones. Son como 4 elementos que voy a compartir con ustedes. Uno de ellos, que el modelo del extractivismo sigue vigente, lastimosamente, pero se sostiene gracias al fomento que generan los propios estados. Los estados, mediante sus normas, sus instituciones, en la búsqueda de la necesidad de generar ingresos económicos, de acumular capital para ciertos sectores, han seguido sosteniendo y siguen manteniendo esto de hacer el extractivismo de los recursos naturales. Por ejemplo, hemos escuchado en Nepal lo que está vinculado con el tema de la minería a cielo abierto, el avance de la frontera agrícola, como nos los plantea claramente Paraguay, y la importancia que le da al Estado para decir el 65% de los ingresos que tenemos como país depende de la ganadería, depende de la soya, y eso permite que se vaya ampliando la frontera agrícola y cada vez tengamos menos bosques, ¿no? Y bueno, entonces ese es un elemento que hay que considerar. El trabajo hacia la incidencia de las políticas públicas sigue siendo un desafío. Necesitamos nuevas miradas, necesitamos aprovechar estos espacios globales para poner en debate y decir qué es lo que está pasando, porque detrás de esto, los que están más afectados, sin duda, siguen siendo las comunidades indígenas, y dentro de las comunidades indígenas, como lo ha dicho claramente desde Nepal, la carga muy pesada cae en las mujeres. Cuando uno mira el avance de la frontera agrícola, cuando uno ve estos problemas de la minería, vemos que primero encontramos brechas laborales, ¿no? y de los roles de cuidado. La migración, no solo el cambio climático, sino el ampliar la pérdida del bosque, genera vulnerabilidades de las mujeres ante estos factores, no solo climáticos, sino también económicos que se tienen. Ahí podemos ver brechas de educación, ¿no? Lo que automáticamente puede restar oportunidades para las mujeres y para las niñas y llevar al empobrecimiento. Esos datos creo que los tenemos en los artículos de la revista, que es muy importante que podamos ampliarlas, profundizarlas y poder exponerlas en nuestros espacios. Lo otro que me parece sumamente clave para poder mirar las nuevas formas de extractivismo, la experiencia de Brasil, ¿no? Con estas plantaciones de eucaliptos transgénicos, y que también ahora vienen con esto de la edición de genes. ¿No? Es una nueva forma de vendernos un modelo, ¿no? Es decir, no son transgénicos, pero sí hay una manipulación genética para poder establecer cierto tipo de variedades de eucaliptos en este caso, pero que también requieren de un paquete tecnológico, ¿no? Acá también estamos poniendo en contradicho la biodiversidad, ¿no? El bosque como concepto de diferentes especies, de diferentes estratos. O sea, no es solo tener un bosque de eucaliptos y decir son tantos miles de CO2 que voy a capturar, ¿no? Y empezar a registrar con los créditos de carbono. Entonces, me parece que está apareciendo una nueva forma de extractivismo con base a plantaciones forestales y créditos de carbono, ¿no? En Bolivia hemos tenido ciertos indicios no buenos en cuanto a cómo se quiere introducir el tema de los créditos de carbono. Es muy similar a la problemática que tenemos en Brasil, casi en toda la región amazónica y en el Chaco. Entonces, ahí creo que es un punto a considerar y está muy bien planteado en el artículo de Brasil, donde nos plantea esta situación y cómo eso trasciende a los países de Latinoamérica. No solo estamos hablando de Brasil, sino ya estamos hablando también de Chile y las implicaciones sociales y los conflictos que se tienen con las comunidades por allá. Entonces ahí creo que es un elemento muy, muy importante. Hay una política de integración de los países, al menos eso se siente mucho en Sudamérica. Queremos integrar el Océano Pacífico, el Océano Atlántico. Parece saludable eso, que los pueblos se comuniquen, que haya accesos, pero en ese trayecto estamos viendo que hay vulneración a los derechos de las comunidades indígenas nuevamente. Estamos atentando sus territorios, los territorios comunales están siendo afectados, hay un abuso en cuanto a la mano de obra. Entonces, creo que por ahí hay que empezar a mirar con mucho detalle. Yo tuve la oportunidad de estar navegando por el río Paraguay y conocer gran parte del Chaco paraguayo y conversar con las comunidades Isir, con las comunidades ayoreas. Y esto que nos plantea desde Paraguay es fundamental para entender si nosotros despojamos de sus tierras, sus territorios comunitarios a estos pueblos, ellos terminan siendo sumamente vulnerables ante el escenario económico ambiental y el tema de poder acceder a ciertos recursos para que ellos puedan subsistir como tal, ¿no? Entonces, ese es un tema muy, muy importante que debatir con los gobiernos cuando hablamos de integración, tener el cuidado de no vulnerar sus derechos. Finalmente, es simplemente para destacar esto que a todos nos interesa y quiero usar un poco las palabras de un libro que presentaron recién sobre el trabajo de Arturo Escobar, un pensador que tenemos acá en el continente americano, en la región sur, y él dice que siempre se ha identificado mucho con el mundo de las mujeres y en las últimas décadas muchísimo más todavía, y con la sensibilidad de las mujeres para el trabajo, para todo, para la vida y para el trabajo intelectual. Entonces voy a este último punto que nos plantean desde Nepal, la carga muy pesada a las mujeres, ¿no? Miramos la biodiversidad, estamos mirando los ecosistemas, estamos mirando el extractivismo, estamos mirando la contaminación. Y en el caso boliviano lo que ocurre es que el impacto de todo eso cae en las mujeres. Hay incendios forestales en Bolivia. El año pasado tuvimos como 12 millones de hectáreas que se quemaron. Los varones salen y las mujeres quedan, ¿no? ¿Quiénes son los que terminan reconstruyendo los sistemas de vida? ¿Quiénes son los que terminan estableciendo nuevamente sus plantaciones forestales? Son las mujeres. Creo que eso no debemos de descuidar. Es un planteamiento que debíamos de sostenerlo muy fuertemente, porque ahí estamos viendo básicamente estos elementos de vulneración de los derechos y en quienes queda la carga pesada finalmente, ¿no? Muchísimas gracias. Espero no haberme pasado el tiempo.
No, gracias Mario, muchas gracias por tus reflexiones y bueno, gracias a todas las personas que nos acompañaron aquí, también a nuestros queridos miembros por haber contribuido y bueno, a todas las participantes de este webinario, gracias por estar aquí y nos vemos en una próxima oportunidad para, en este caso, seguramente presentar los artículos de quienes no nos pudieron acompañar hoy, como Mario y también como Wenbo. Gracias y nos vemos pronto.